We're going to bring in Ahmad right now, and we're going to talk about, we're moving back further into conversations. And this is real conversations, by the way. It is talking to people on the phone and how you can do that in an authentic way that helps convert them into a customer. What this means from a research standpoint to your business and how you might change the entire flow of your business. And honestly, I always tell people, especially early stage that are looking for product market fit, it's like, oh, we're selling baby clothes. Oh, we're selling this, we're selling that. It's like, okay, how many customers did you talk to this week? And they're like, well, we got, inquiries on customer service. I'm like, no, how many customers did you talk to on the phone this week? And they go, well, none. I'm like, okay, so you don't know your customer well enough. So I always say talk to 3 customers a week until you're not getting any value from the conversations, because you're almost certainly going to do it. And then down to 1 customer a week in perpetuity, including the CEO of, I think I heard the CEO of Delta talks to customers, and like some of those other large brands. So I highly recommend talking to your customers on the phone. Ahmad, are you with me? Can you hear me? I think I got you muted. You should be able to unmute.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you now. And
Awesome.
if you want to
Can you see my
share,
screen?
What was that?
Can you see my screen?
I can't see it says that you've started sharing your screen, but I'm not seeing it. Double click to enter full screen mode. Maybe you need to unshare, reshare to get back in there. I don't know. It's kind of, can anybody see a screen? It just says, nope. I think maybe, just unshare, reshare to get it working. Also, congratulations. Ahmad just had a baby. Boy or girl? I don't even know yet.
It's a boy.
Oh my gosh. You're in for it. My 6-year-old runs around the house with his head cut off. He's just so running around crazy all the time, especially during the COVID months. But all right. Anyways, what did you share your whole screen, or are you choosing a window? It's just going to like a blank.
How about now?
Oh, here we go. There it is. Perfect.
Awesome.
Oh, this looks great. Ahmad, I'll let you take it away and explain this amazing kind of opportunity to chat with customers.
Hey man, I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. This session is actually a little bit of a rug pull, and I think you bait and switch. I think you introduced it well by really stressing the importance of talking to customers. I know that the talk is explicitly titled "Tackling Abandoned Checkouts," but that's and we will be covering that, but it's going to go a little bit broader. I think there's a larger theme at play here, and I want to make sure that I hit those things. I think. By the way, how long is this session?
You've got 30 minutes now.
30 minutes.
24 minutes to be precise.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that should be enough time. So I think generally on these things, it's a good form to kind of introduce oneself. So my name is Ahmad. I currently spend most of my time across 2 different kind of worlds. One is I'm a marketing consultant. Currently, I'm consulting for Canada's largest retailer. It's by far Canada's largest retailer in their online grocery, e-commerce grocery team, basically going through a digital transformation there. With everything going on with COVID, that's kind of like in the middle of a hurricane there. But on the other side, that's big enterprise, big business work that I do. But on the other side, where I see, where I get a lot more of my fulfillment, and where I think there's more of a need, and where I get just a lot more enjoyment, is the small business side of things. So supporting small businesses, helping small businesses. And so on that side, I do run my own Shopify store. I've taken my foot off the gas from there recently to spend more time focusing on on app development. So basically the story is I started a Shopify store, had a problem with abandoned checkouts, wasn't able to figure out why it wasn't working. I was new to e-commerce as a Shopify merchant. Didn't really even realize abandoned checkouts were a thing until I was running my own store and seeing a tab labeled abandoned checkouts, and then basically figuring out, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess that does exist, this concept, but I didn't really know how to solve them. I was seeing thousands of dollars a day kind of being abandoned, not really knowing, really knowing that I needed to recover these. So I sell handheld bidets, and my target is especially niche. It's very targeted towards South Asians and Muslim immigrants to Canada. That's sort of like my target audience. And seeing the people's names on the abandoned checkout list, like Faisals and Mohammeds and Amirs and all these kind of Muslim and Arab names, I know that these are in my audience because I'm targeting them. And so by them not completing their checkout, by the way, having a bidet a handheld bidet kind of installed in homes in South Asia and the Middle East is kind of commonplace. So in Canada and North America, where they're not commonplace, immigrants that come over there, like one of the first things they get for their house are these bidets. So again, I knew that these were my customers, but they weren't converting. And so I spent months really trying to figure this out. I did all the automation hacks and, exit intent pop-ups, email automations, Facebook remarketing, discount offers, email sequences, SMS marketing, automated SMS marketing. I tried a lot of things, and I just wasn't able to break that 15% recovery rate. And 15% industry average will tell you is pretty good. Industry experts will say 15% is really good. But for me, I didn't think it was really that great. And so I was really trying to figure out why that was happening. And I just kind of, after a few months trying to figure it out, not being able to break 15%, I decided, I'm just going to pick up the phone and call my customers. And I'm surprised at myself that I didn't do it before. I've always been a big proponent of just talking to customers and just kind of closing feedback loops. I'm a big kind of feedback loop, kind of believer in feedback loops. So I did, and it was a huge success. It was overnight. I basically went from recovering 15% of my abandoned checkouts to over 55%. And it was such a simple thing. So basically, I want to chat about kind of what I learned. These are obviously my opinions as well from my experiences and what I tell our merchants. Basically, I figured out that when I was able to call customers, I was closing more sales. But what was missing was that when I was looking on the Shopify App Store, all these apps were automation focused. Automated emails, automating SMSs, automating live chats, it was all automation, automated marketing automation. And not that that's a bad thing. I think automation is a hugely valuable thing. It just wasn't working for me, and I couldn't find an app that was going to help me just alert me, hey, Ahmad, Derek just abandoned a checkout. Hey, Ahmad, Faisal just abandoned this checkout, and just give me the person's number so I can call and make the sale as soon as it happens. That app didn't exist. I ended up making the app with a friend of mine. We launched it, not really thinking anything of it. And, fast forward a few years, we've had tens of thousands of installs, and that's a business has basically been born out of just me solving my own need. But really, again, this talk, I want to communicate some of the lessons that I've learned, not just from myself, but from a lot of merchants that are using us and what we've learned through the data that we have through our tools to help you guys. So the underlying, again, the theme of this whole session, this whole conference is improving customer experiences through conversational commerce. And one thing that I know and I've seen a lot of, and again, I've said this, I'll say it again, automation is not a bad thing. Automation used in the right way is a very good thing. But I think that the balance, the conversation that we're having in this field is way skewed towards automation. I don't think there's enough focus on people talking about that one-on-one conversation. Right? People think just because they have an online store, it means that they have that excuse of not to talk to a customer because, hey, my store's online. You can just buy it online. I don't need to talk to you. You don't need to talk to me. Just buy it online. But I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. And from our data, the stores that consistently do well, that consistently have a predictable, reliable sales that are growing at a consistent pace are those that we know are calling their customers. And so I just kind of want to put together a story for you to hopefully kind of introduce this idea and maybe shift that balance a little bit more towards the one-on-one conversation side rather than just automation. Cool. By the way, I'm not sure if this is like a Q&A type. I mean, I hope that you will share questions. I can't see them. I don't know if I don't have.
I'll keep you posted if anything comes up urgently.
Okay, cool. Yeah, please ask questions. I would prefer that method personally. So now on the note of abandoned checkouts, one thing I ask a lot of merchants, seems like a very basic question, but you have to kind of think about it. It's what's better than recovering an abandoned checkout? You can think about it for a second. What's better than recovering an abandoned checkout? And the answer, I mean, is quite simply, it's recovering the checkout, but then preventing a future abandon for the same reason, right? Now, when we try to recover abandoned checkouts, the general zeitgeist is, you send these emails, you automate, you retarget, you send discount codes, you send emails, SMSs. I mean, that's kind of what is generally accepted practice. But what that doesn't do is allow you to learn why they abandoned in the first place. If you can learn why they abandoned, you can fix that problem and then not lose a future abandon, right? So in my case, for example, I'll give you an example. I sell, handheld bidets. Now in Canada, when the weather gets really cold, people have this concern of, well, I don't want to be spraying my backside with like freezing water. I need this, I want this product, I need this product, but I'm worried about, do you have a hot water product or a hot water adapter? Which we did, we sold it. But it wasn't clear and center of the page that made it very clear that we have it. And again, seeing that most of our traffic was on mobile, and we've seen that mobile users don't really navigate a lot. That's why what Kurt was saying about having accordions already open, pre-opened, and having information really easy on mobile. That's very important because we know that customers don't navigate as freely on mobile. So that being said, they weren't navigating to the pages that had that information, so they just abandoned, thinking that, we don't sell the product. But we did. Now, I didn't know that they didn't know that we sold it. I assumed that it was clear. It was on our website. I'm assuming they would be able to find it, but they weren't. Or a subset of merchants weren't. After a few calls, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 calls, I think the number was exactly 7. The 7th, I mean, I should have realized the pattern way earlier, but over the course of a few months, I had called 7 of the people that I had called actually said the exact same thing about the hot water thing not being there. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make it front and center, make it right at the top of the homepage with a button right underneath the primary product with a button that says hot water attachment available as well. And my abandoned carts dropped. The number of times abandoned carts were happening dropped as a percentage of traffic, as well as my average order values went up because now I was able to upsell an attachment part. So that's something, as a very simple example, I would never have realized was an issue if I wasn't calling customers. Little did I know that, let's say 7% of all my abandoned checkouts were for this reason that I didn't know about. And another note, we have one of our other merchants sells these miniature pocket bikes that are several $1,000s. Again, he's being new to e-commerce as well. Didn't realize, again, just because he didn't know to think about it, but because he sold multiple $1,000 products, the majority of customer base didn't have, a lot of the times didn't have that amount available on their credit card. So they would try to order, but their credit card would get declined because they didn't have enough credit. So after a few conversations, realized that this was happening, and then so he instituted an installment plan, and then that fixed his problem. So having those conversations is super important. It's not just about recovering the checkout, it's about preventing future ones for the same reason, right? It's really dumb to be making the same mistake again and again and not knowing why. It's like having a hole in your bucket. It's like having a hole in your gas tank and where fuel is leaking and you have no idea that it's happening. I mean, that's worse than having the leak and knowing about it, because at least you know about it. This way you don't even know about it, so you're confused, and you've created a false feedback loop for yourself. Now, another really interesting thing is about abandoned checkouts and automation is, and this data should be more, it actually continues. It continues like this even over the next few years. It's just the data is a little bit old from a graph that I did on a blog post a long time ago. Since e-commerce has really become more mainstream and more people are buying online, the interesting thing is the abandoned checkout rates have actually been very consistent. Actually, the source isn't showing up here, but it's on a later slide. The source, you'll see it. And so it's a it's between 60 and 80%. It's really kind of, and depending on which source you'll go to, it'll be between 60 and 80%. And it's very consistent over the last 20 years, has very consistently been this rate. Now, what's interesting is when you superimpose something like marketing automation. So this is a Google trend for marketing automation, right? So the growth of the popularity of marketing automation is actually going up during the same amount of time where abandoned checkouts are also going up. So you'd expect there to be an inverse correlation. You'd expect that as marketing automation gets better and more sophisticated and better developed, that abandoned checkouts would drop. But that's the opposite. So that's very interesting just to think about. And additionally, another thing that I wanted just to make sure that you guys are aware of, because I see this and it makes me cringe. By the way, this is the source of the previous data as well, these guys. The funny thing about these guys is, and you'll see the same thing with whoever is running these studies, is these studies are basically, for example, this example is a multiple choice survey of U.S. adults, where they've asked anyone who's abandoned a checkout in the last 3 months why they abandoned, but it was a multiple choice question, and they're seeing that it nice and 100% fits really nice and clean. Now, this creates a negative feedback loop for merchants like us, because this is telling us that, hey, the biggest reason someone's abandoning is because it's too expensive. The second most reason is because they wanted me to create an account or the checkout process is too long. But I can tell you from experience, and I can tell you from the 20,000 merchants that use our abandoned phone recovery app, that these are not the main reasons that people end up saying over the phone for why they abandoned. The actual graph, what it looks like is it's an extremely long tail process. Meaning, sure, you might have the three main reasons why someone's abandoning, but the majority of the line under this is the majority of the reasons why people abandon is actually a long tail, meaning there's a lot of reasons why. Like, it could be something very specific, like a question, is this okay for a senior citizen to use? Is it child friendly? If my 3-year-old puts it in their mouth, is there a choking hazard? Like really little things like that you might not expect. These add up to be more than these put together. Now, because the people that create these surveys are obviously trying to sell their own tool, they make it look, in this particular case, these guys sell simple checkout forms. So they're trying to actually sell you this. And so they've made a survey that obviously helps them say, hey, you can save 21% of all your abandoned checkouts if you use our tool. You have to be very careful where you're getting your information from. There's red herrings everywhere. The fact is, a huge reason why people are abandoning it is you actually don't, you probably don't know. And again, in this case of one of the merchants I was telling you about, it says here, it looks like, oh, it's such a small amount. The credit card decline was only 4%. But for that merchant, it was 80%. 80% of their abandoned checkouts, luckily they figured it out within the first few months of launching their store, but it was a huge number, not 4%. So you have to realize what's going to work for you, and again, at the end of the day, if you're not talking to customers, you'll have no idea what's actually going on. So talking to customers is like number one. And on that note, in terms of managed checkouts, this is kind of a it's like imagine this, right? If let's say someone's reason for why they abandoned their checkout is these reasons, right? Expensive, they're trying to abandon checkout, they're trying to go to these are reasons why they're going to abandon their checkout. But you, as the business owner, really wants to make sure that that doesn't happen. You want to stop them from getting into the abandoned checkout zone, right? So for this example, you have discounts which you can use to recover. Great. Hard to navigate? Well, you have a mobile responsive site. Great, you can block that. What comes included? Have an unboxing video, and now you've solved that. When will I get this? Questions about delivery estimates. Again, you can do that and you can block, stop that. So these are all things you probably already know. These are generally widely known reasons why a lot of people abandon, but based on what you're selling and based on certain audience segments, you might have like this question mark and you don't know what this reason actually is. And this, if you don't know it, again, on the example about the hot water thing or the credit card being declined, if you didn't, ask for feedback through a call, then you would not have been able to stop this, and it would have become an abandoned checkout. So again, I think I'm kicking a dead horse here at this point. So now, another interesting thing is, again, I said before, automation's not bad. It's good when it's used properly. And so the way to look at it is, actually, I'm just going to skip this because it's probably already known. But basically, your store probably fits in one of these 4 quadrants. Now, you could have a store that does high volume. So you sell lots and lots of products, thousands, tens of thousands each month or day or week. I mean, you could be a massive store, but it could be high. It could be high volume, but low margin, meaning you might be selling like fidget spinners, but you're selling 1 million of them a month, but they're low volume. Could be low volume, low margin, could be low volume, high margin, could be high volume, high margin. Now, automation, I think just pure automation and no one-on-one conversations, I think probably makes the most sense if you have a lot of volume, but low margin. Meaning the margins are too small for you to spend your time, because remember, your time is your money. Your time is a resource that you have, and you don't want to spend it on something with a low return. So if you're only making a few dollars or a few cents per conversion, then you probably don't want to be making phone calls and spending one-on-one time chatting or calling customers. So this is where automation is great. The other thing to keep in mind, just taking a step back, is if you're kind of taking a step back here, the problem with a lot of SaaS products and websites and applications is that they were built for enterprise. They're built for really large businesses. The reason why I love focusing on the small business side is that I think the small business future, it's very important for society to have a healthy small business ecosystem. It's more important for that than to have an ecosystem with a healthy big business ecosystem. A society with a big business ecosystem. I think small business is more important for society than big business. But traditionally, and before 10, 20 years ago, where technology used to be really expensive, before cloud came to be, before digital became digital first, back when people were installing software through CD-ROMs and they had multiple year development processes for enterprise tools. The whole culture around software development was really about servicing enterprise clients. Now, that means that the tools that were created, especially for marketing automation on the back of companies like Salesforce, they were built for enterprise. Now, if you're building a store and you want to, and you're looking at best practices, you're looking at the Nikes, you're looking at the Adidas, you're looking at the Apples, you're looking at the Samsung, you're looking at the Best Buys and the Amazons. These are massive businesses that have massive budgets, that have high volume, and they're somewhere in this quadrant, in these two quadrants. And so they just use automation. And so I made the same mistake, is when you're running your small business, you kind of try to emulate the big brands and what they're doing, but just because they're doing it doesn't mean you should. If we as small businesses play by the rules of the big businesses, we will lose, because those are their rules. Amazon, if we try to play Amazon's game of sending abandoned checkout emails after a certain number of time, we will lose to Amazon, because Amazon it's their game. As small businesses, our advantage is the one-on-one conversation, is the one-on-one customer relationship. Amazon will not call customers to see what they want and what they need and to learn more about them. Nike will not call their customer and learn more about what they need, right? Whoever the big player is in the vertical that you sell, I guarantee you they're not calling your customers, their customers and your customers. You have that advantage. So we should play by the rules that we have that are our advantage. So, and so that being said, small businesses, we're in this quadrant. We play in these two quadrants. And again, not to say that automation doesn't fit here, but that one-on-one is sort of more valuable here. From a low margin and low volume perspective, well, it's low volume anyway. If you're already low volume and you're a new store and you don't have to, and you're trying to get your store off the ground, that's even more reason to talk to customers. They may not have anything to do with abandoned checkouts. It could just be about calling people just to learn about what they need and to see how you might be able to service them better. And obviously, if it's low volume but high margin, why wouldn't you call somebody? This kind of really blows my mind. Is I've seen so many merchants install our apps, and they're asking how to set up automation where they're only getting 2 abandoned checkouts a day. 2 abandoned checkouts a week, and their average prices for the products are hundreds of dollars. And they're trying to automate their email recoveries and automate their SMS and automate their messenger flows. But it's like, you only get 2 a week. Why are you trying to automate this? And on top of that, these are multiple $500, $600 products that industry is telling you only have a 10 to 15% chance of recovering through automation. So you're basically saying that there's a 90% chance that you'll make $0 and a 10% chance you'll make $500, right? So your expected return on this is $50. Through just sending that email, it's $50. Whereas if you're calling customers, we've seen from our data is that it's between 25 to 75%. We've seen recovery rates from one-on-one phone conversations, obviously depending on the salesmanship that you might have, the relationship that you have, the type of products that you sell, things like that. But why would you leave it to chance? Why would you make a 10% gamble on recovering a product, especially if it's in the thousands of dollars even? So just something to think about there. The other thing is, and again, going into, I think I have a couple minutes left here, but basically going into where you can use the calling strategy outside of abandoned checkout. So this is a really interesting topic. If I ever get invited to do a chat again, I would love to do a talk about RFM. It's called Recency, Frequency, Monetary. It's a way to segment your audience. And basically what you can do is you can segment your customers by giving them a score of 1 to 5 on these 3 parameters: recency, frequency, and monetary. And you can map them and find out these 11 customer segments. You may not want to call all customers. Like, for example, you may not want to call customers in this segment, in these segments, 7, 8, and 11. But these segments might make a lot of sense to call. Recent customers, calling to say thank you. If someone just spent, $5,000 on your store, or have spent $5,000 over their lifetime, why wouldn't you call them to say thank you? Did you know, for example, Alibaba, the big Chinese market, like Amazon of China and South Asia, if anybody spends over $100,000 US on Alibaba in a year, these are very wealthy people that are spending $100,000 on stuff on Alibaba, they get gifted a free round trip ticket around the world as a thank you. And so that kind of reinvestment back into the relationship fuels growth, keeps these best customers coming back. Now, you don't have to give them a huge gift like that, but even just a call to say thank you, not to try to sell anything, not try to do anything. You're really just calling and you're saying thank you. And on that note, if you want more information about what you might say, if you're shy, phone shy, you don't really know what to say. The reason why I don't have that I'm not promoting a website of our apps, the reason why is because I'd rather promote our blog. There's just a lot of content in there. We have free guides. So we have we have 10 phone scripts based on different situations and what you might say and how you might approach that call. So we have the scripts written for you and you can download them. They're all free. We even have an RFM segmentation guide. So this guide, actually, we're giving this away to anybody in this event. There's a link to it on the homepage of this event, I believe. So you can get more information there. It also talks about calling customers there. But yeah, I mean, I'm running out of time, but I'm just going to leave this slide up. This is our new app that's coming out. And you can sign up for it. We're launching very soon, but basically what it does is it alerts you when really important customer events happen, like a really large checkout abandonment, a really large purchase, a repeating customer, some important customer event, and it's a mobile app. It just push notifies you, hey, Derek, Maya just abandoned a $300 checkout. Tap it, see her information, and you can just call her right away through the app. So it's super simple. That's our app there. But Derek, am I over time now?
You're slightly over time, but it's perfect because we started a little bit late, so all is good. I've linked the blog and the phone app here in the chat. Yeah, and I love. I didn't know about this new app, so we'll have to talk about it. I will have to take a look at it and make sure that I know how to help promote it for you.
Yeah, basically so our Scout app, that first app that I told you about. We've had over 20,000, 24,000 stores install the app. And like I said, I only built it for myself, didn't really build it to scale. I didn't think more than 100 merchants would install it. And so our architecture started breaking down. So we're basically relaunching it as a new app, taking feedback from all the merchants.
Talking to them on the phone?
Sorry? Oh yeah, of course. I talk to like 10 merchants every day.
Drinking your own Kool-Aid is all I mean to say.
Yeah.
I love it, Ahmad. Thank you so much. We're going to move it right into the next session. If you guys have any questions for him, do you want to drop your email address in chat or something like that?
Yeah. It's a@hmscommerce.com.
All right, here, I'll share that with everyone here. Awesome. Perfect. If you have questions for him, reach out to him directly. I highly implore you to talk to your customers on the phone, especially using his apps and either the one about to launch or Scout and Callback Request, which are live on the App Store now. And you can find all those with my link, which is ecomtech.link/HMS Always good to talk this strategy with you. I love how you brought it into your own use case as how you found this opportunity for yourself and then built the tool around it. And I especially love this concept that sometimes when you're getting fed information, that information is catered towards the person presenting it. That was the underlying premise of, well, you see all these smaller issues actually compound to be larger than the big issue that they want you to pay attention to. And so I think people you got to think for yourselves on what issue is actually the biggest and how to solve it. And talking to your customers solves so many issues, a lot of them you didn't even know existed in your business.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Derek, man. I appreciate this.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Good luck with baby, and we'll talk soon.